Good morning or good afternoon. Happy Friday. You're tuned into Tisha Talks Live, where I interview entrepreneurs all around the world and bring you some tips and secrets and strategies so you can use those for your business. Super, super excited about today because I have my good friend, my dear friend, Russ Hedge. He is out of Oregon and he's going to be joining us in just a little bit. And we're talking all about connection and community building, my favorite things to talk about. If you were tuning into this live, then definitely drop us a line, say hello, chat with us, tell us where you're from. And of course, if you have any questions, let us know so we can bring you into the conversation as well. And if you're catching the replay, we love that you're here too. So make sure that you let us know where you're from and ask us any questions. But of course, I want to start off with a couple of thank yous and some announcements. As we move forward into this week, I want to give a big thank you to my sponsor. This is Gateway Bank. They're out of Arizona here, and they also are a big sponsor of my Social Connect Phoenix events, where we do a lot of community building as well. Proud sponsor. So thank you so much to James Christensen and his staff over at Gateway Bank for always being a big support. And then this is another event that I've got coming up. This is Connecting Through Community. Connecting Through Community is coming up February 28th. We, along with 20 other volunteers, I and 20 other volunteers, we're teaming up for Midwest Food Bank. We're going to be packing bags of food and trying to alleviate the hunger problem here in Arizona and worldwide. There's still space available, and I'll drop the link for that in the comments, but we'd love to have you. Just a feel-good event. As we're talking about connections and community, I always love to say, people have this whole conception that connecting only happens when you're at networking events. And I love to say it happens just about anywhere and everywhere. Especially these types of events, connecting through community, we're doing something good for the community. We're lending a hand, and I'm going to just say connections happen just about there too. So before we bring Russ in, you know how I love to do it. We're going to play a little intro just to get you dancing this morning, and then we are off to the races. So hang on tight. Well, welcome back, everybody. I hope you loved that little dance number for you. I saw Russ Hedge dancing in the green room, as I do with all of my guests. He's even giving me little like happy fingers in the green room. Well, so everybody, thank you so much. And I want to bring our special guest on with me, Russ Hedge. Welcome to the show, my friend. Russ Hedge, the inspirational specialist out of Oregon. Today, again, we're talking about connection and community building. Thanks so much for being here, Russ.
Thanks so much, Tisha, for having me on. I'm so excited to be with you. You're such an amazing person, and I appreciate it. I'm so glad we connected, and we're in each other's community. It's great. Great things happen when people get together and connect, right?
Absolutely. I want to give a big shout out to some folks who are joining us. We've got, of course, my loyal fans, Bruce Carnahan, the guy in the blue shirt, tuning in from sunny Tempe. Actually got him that house too, which was such a fun experience. We've got, and Russ, you're there too. So thank you. And Mr. Groovy coming in from Los Angeles. Mr. Groovy was actually just here for the LinkedIn local event put on by Mary Fane Brandt and Bruce. It was such a treat to meet him after him just being on the show so much and being such a loyal fan. So thank you guys for tuning in. Yeah, like Bruce and like Mr. Groovy, if you're in, let us know you're here. We'd love to welcome you into the conversation as well. And Russ, so how's everything going? How's Oregon? All good?
Oregon is good. So we went from snow yesterday to sunshine today, but it is very cold. And where I live, we got a couple inches of snow, but some of the areas were inundated. Portland shut down the airport. It was like a foot of snow in Portland. So pretty crazy.
You know what? I'm wondering if that's just going on like nationwide, because here in Arizona, it's super, super sunny, then freezing windy the next day, like almost like we're having a hurricane coming in. It's been the weirdest weather. So James Schreiber, thank you so much. Greetings, sir. Thanks so much for tuning in. We have some people on Facebook that are also joining us as well. So thanks, guys, for making this part of your Friday. Well, I want to talk about connection and community building. And as I shared, Russ, you and I know, like, that's my heart. I love that stuff. I even talked about how I host events here in Arizona. I will host Social Connect Phoenix and also connecting through community, because I love giving back and lending a hand. And I shared this just as we were talking about this in the intro of, where do you think connections happen? Because I think a lot of people really do have that misconception that it's only like, I have to go to an event to make that happen. So where's like the craziest place you've ever had a connection happen? I love asking that question of my contacts.
Well, I tell you, connections do happen everywhere. They happen on vacation. They happen in the line to the coffee shop. Had a really great connection a while back, talking to a guy in the coffee shop. Next thing you know, we're meeting ourselves for coffee and talking about business. So you never know when they're going to happen. I'm trying to think the most craziest connection. Where did that happen? Well, I can tell you that when we went digital, it's got kind of this boomerang effect with connections, because I connected to my good friend and little sis, Noopy Aurora, Dr. Noopy in Manchester, England. Then she boomeranged back and connected to me to Devin James in Portland, that's right here in Oregon. And so it's kind of crazy how one connection leads to another, but you never know. You never know where things are going to happen. So I'm with you. Always be looking to connect with people.
I know, one of my coolest experiences, and Bruce was there for part of it when I wasn't there, but I ended up going to Michigan in August, and I have so many connections, ironically, out of Michigan off of LinkedIn. And I said, you know what? I'm going to make a special trip so I can meet all of my connections. I staged a little mini happy hour, and then I got sick with COVID. And Bruce was actually going already because he wanted to meet all these connections. So he stepped in as me. He hosted the happy hour. He got to meet all the people. And then I came a couple months later, hosted the other happy hour. And it was just incredible, Russ. Like, here are people who live in the same neighborhood, the same city, and they don't know each other. And they just laughed because they said, oh my goodness, it took Tisha coming from Arizona to connect us all in Michigan. Isn't that funny?
Right. It is hilarious where you can, the power of connection goes way beyond borders, but people so often need to think about, there's lots of great connections right around where you are, but there's also connections on the other side of the world. And, people like Bruce is an amazing guy, came through Oregon, and we had a cup of coffee in Salem, walked along the riverfront and chatted. And what a great guy. And, I got connected to Bruce through other people, and then we've been on each other's shows and all those things. So yeah, just amazing, the power of connection.
Oh, I know. And he even says here, our coffee shop in Riverwalk was a special time for me. Yes, Dr. Noopy Aurora was a first-timer guest for me. And I've also been on Dr. Noopy Aurora's show. She's also been on my show. It's just a reciprocal thing. You get on people's shows and it's like, I want you to be on my show now too. Like, you're just cool
That's
people.
right.
Yeah, that's right. How you keep the connections flowing. Such a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing.
I was going to say, and you being on her show, when I knew that was coming, I told her, great choice. She picks the guest, but I produce her show. And so it's a double blessing for me to be able to be involved with the things she's doing as well. I mean, those kind of things also, when we connect, we encourage each other, because when I first met Noopy, I told her, you got to get your own live stream show. And she's like, oh, no. I said, oh yeah, you do. And so I just kept pushing at her until she finally said, yes, I got to get my own show, because she's a natural, kind of like you, Tisha.
Kind of like you, Russ. Natural at these live shows. I always love it. And I've shared this, time and time again, that I love this show because, for one, I was a broadcast journalism major. So it's kind of fun to have your own little talk show when you feel like it, right? And I like being able to meet people all around the world. Like, I've had people from Pakistan, from England, from Australia. And it's just so cool to be able to meet them and also learn from them every single time I get to have them on. It's the best
Yeah.
of both worlds.
Well, I completely agree with that. I have a whole theory on connection, and I used to be just local, and I would start at the center of a community, which to me was a chamber of commerce. And then I would just like burst out from there. I would meet everybody, and then they would send me to one organization and then to the other group and the other networking group. And today I'm going back to visit my old Rotary that I was in, that wanted me to come back as a visitor. I mean, I love connection, but then I did the same thing online. And I, just like you're saying, around the world, I would start at the center of a networking group. And next thing you know, I'd be meeting people everywhere, bouncing out to them. And instead of having regular coffee, then we'd have virtual coffee and just chat. And I'm telling you, I have got some of the most, like you, Tisha, some of the most amazing friends all over the world. And it just really is a blessing.
Isn't it cool? You have a place to stay every single time you go somewhere. People are like, come stay with me. I know. Shout out to Kim Boudreaux Smith. I stayed with her in Michigan. She's like, anytime. She's like, our visit was so short-lived. Come back and stay longer. I'm like, oh, I might have to take you up on that. So fun. All right, we have a question coming through from Bruce. It says, how do you track your connections, and what is the biggest impact you can see? Oh, I love this. I love this because I think, like you, Russ, I have a feeling that you and I view connections very similarly, where it's not wide, it's deep. Right? It's not surface level. Have to have so many people. I'm like, I want to take the people I have and go deep with them so that we know each other, we trust each other, we're like ambassadors for each other. So tell us, how do you track those connections, and what's the impact?
Well, because I'm not a super detailed person, the best way I track connections is really through social media, through LinkedIn and Facebook. And then I have an email list too. Those would be the ways I track them. I've got a very simple mind. And so I try to keep things very simple because I think, the easier it is, I'm big on that in business. I mean, simplicity is king. The simpler things are for you to operate, the better. The simpler things are for other people to buy from you, the better. And so that's how I track. But then, I'm the same way as you. This was my theory before, and I still use this. I shotgun to meet people, right? Which means that I go to big groups, and I have an open link online at russhedge.com. You can go and you can connect with me. I have 15-minute slots. You can Zoom with me. I'll do that with anybody. What happens though, then you filter who are the people you really want to hang with, and you want to connect deeper with, right? You can connect with them, right? When my goal last year and this year was to connect with over 1,000 new people, and I did it last year easily, and I'm doing it again this year. But those connections don't all go deep because not everybody wants to do that. But I joked with you when we first met, and I tell everybody this. I said, I'm a lifetime connector. So now you're stuck with me as your friend, because I just, I really think of connection as being friends and staying in touch and staying connected. And I know you've seen that, Tisha, because we have talked many times, been on each other's shows, lots of things. So, but I think that's so important to spend that time, go deeper with people, learn more about them, and really listen, show them you care. And that's what really creates connection.
I agree too. It's just like relationships. We talk about relationships a lot. And for me, relationships are key. And it's never a one-sided relationship. And if you feel that you're always putting the effort into the relationship and that person is not reciprocating, it's really easy to be like, I think I'm going to start distancing myself a little bit from this, because it's not good for either of us. Like, I'm just putting in all my energy into this. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I agree. So let's see. We got some comments. Yes. So Bruce calls me his biz bestie, # biz bestie. And he said, so wise, filtering to get down to your jive hive or biz besties. Great process, Russ Hedge. I agree with that too. I totally agree with that not everybody is going to be in your circle. My good friend, Louie Bischoff, I've had her on the show. She's one of my TikTok experts. And she just said, I love being part of your tick. And I said, my tick? And she's like, Tisha's inner circle. And I was like, oh, I feel so blessed and happy about that. Like, that just makes me smile. Russ, you are part of my tick. I just want you and Bruce and Royce and Louise and everybody watching that you're part of my tick. Arithmetic.
I do love that. I do love that. Well, this is what I really love. When you're really making connections and really making friends, when you can have, like we're having, an easy flowing conversation. You enjoy talking to each other. You enjoy spending time, because that's what true connections and friends are all about. Years ago, I started a workshop called "Turning Cold Calling into Making Friends" for salespeople, because this
Mm,
was my theory all the years, my 35 plus years of sales and marketing. I would always tell my teams, you need to really connect to people. You don't need to sell people right off the bat. You need to go in and you need to make friends with people, not sell to people. And they would always be so afraid to go into new offices. I said, what if you just, instead of being worried about it, take them a cup of coffee and just make a friend? And they
yep.
said, but I don't have to sell them anything. And I said, nope, don't even try. Don't even try.
Mm.
Find out about them, talk to them, find out what they're excited about and what they're doing in their life, and just make a friend. And I said, that's going to go a long, long ways of building your community and helping you with whatever you're selling, whatever you're doing. That's a byproduct of connection and community building.
It really is. It really is. There was a woman that I met and I was just like flabbergasted. Who uses that word? Flabbergasted. But I just remember talking to her and I was inviting her to come to a social connect event. And I was so stunned, Russ, that she said, why should I come to your event? I don't need more friends. And I just was like, wow, okay, okay. But she took my advice and she came and I saw her smiling at the event and she was living it up and she was hanging by my step and repeat sign, taking pictures with all these people. And at the end, I said, so how did you do? What'd you think? And she's like, I really liked this. Like I came in thinking I didn't need more friends, but these are the kinds of friends I want. And I just made the point. I was like, if you come in with this whole agenda and that this is the quota and you kind of have a desperation look on your face, it's going to come right back to bite you. Just going to say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting what she said, because usually somebody who says that doesn't really have very many friends, not really any deep friends. I find in people all the time. In fact, I just met with somebody locally here in the town that I'm in yesterday for coffee.
Yep.
He is a big exec in a very large multi-billion-dollar company. And I just talked to him and we learned about each other. And I said, it's always good to make good friends. And I could tell he didn't have his busy, but outside of his family, he doesn't have a lot of friends. And most people are that way. They really don't have a lot of actual friendships outside of their family and their job and stuff they're doing all the time. And so people really appreciate that. And going to events and really kind of connecting with the right people. Like she said, these are the kind of friends I want.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Rohn says you're the average of the 5 people closest to you. I keep upping that all the time. And Tisha, you're way at the top of that list of people that I want to be around, because I want them to positively affect me and what I'm doing. And that's so important.
Yes, I know. I know. Bruce, I'm going to get to your question in just a second because I'd love for Russ to chime in on that too. But, I asked a friend the other day, how is she doing? Like, I think that genuine care and concern for people, that is such a simple, simple thing you can do. Russ, we've had conversations. Bruce and I check in. Royce Hedge. There's so many R people on here, but Royce Blake actually called me the other day. And he's like, do you just have a few minutes to chat? And I was like, of course, call me. And we ended up like talking for an hour,
Right.
But, I have a friend that I just checked in on her and I said, how are you? And this is a woman who's a single mom, autistic son, has a lot of ailments right now, just autoimmune diseases and such. And I said, whatever I can do for you, let me know. Take you dinner, bring you lots of chocolate and wine, take your son to an appointment if you need a little bit of help. And you know what she said to me, Russ? I have to laugh because we're doing this today. She's like, I would really love it if you and I could go see Magic Mike, The Last Dance. Okay, I don't know if you guys know, but Magic Mike is like Channing Tatum and like almost like you're going to a strip club on this movie screen. But you know what? It just made me laugh so much because I'm like, yes, let's go. So we actually bought tickets and we're going today. But to me, that just shows that's the relationship part of this. That's
Right.
checking
Right.
in. That's saying, how do I help you? Like, how do I serve you? What do you need right now from me as a friend? And that's what she said. And I was like, okay, let's go. Let's do it for sure.
You know what's interesting about that is because yesterday I was working with a client and they were telling me I really have trouble talking to people in networking groups and community things because I run out of things to say. And I
Mm,
said, well, then shift your whole mindset, because I said, it's not all about you. I said,
yeah.
what you need to say is, why don't you start off with, how are you doing? Like you just said, and tell me more about you. And when you're focused on the other person, you slowly get them talking. You find out what they're passionate about, what's going on in their life, or what their needs are. And then you really
Mm-hmm.
make true connections. Like you're talking about going deeper. And a good friend of mine who many people will know, D. Scott Smith, we've been friends
Mm-hmm.
forever, and we're co-hosts of our Wednesday show, The Experience. He says, he did a scientific study. He's the deeper thinker on connection on screen. You can make as deep of connections and friends face to face on screen as you can in the same room. And he scientifically proved that a few years ago when he was given a talk over in Dublin, Ireland. That's how he met Alan Hennessy and we all became friends. And now we have the global tea break and all those things. But no, it's very interesting how you can really do that. So quick little story. The other day I'm driving from the town I'm in now to another town a little ways away. I get a call from a friend in Cyprus in the Middle East wanting advice. So he
Mm-hmm.
calls me on my phone. This is where I think the world is amazing nowadays. Through
Yeah.
WhatsApp, calls me on my phone. Then I stop, and then I'm talking to Alan in Dublin, Ireland about something. I bounce over to Florida to talk to a friend. Then I'm over in Manila, the Philippines, bounce back to Portland, down to LA, up to Seattle, even before 10 a.m. in the morning. And I'm thinking, what an amazing, amazing world we live in. But what was cool about that, and then there was Canada. I can't leave that out because a friend in Canada really needed someone to talk to, just like you said. And we spent
Mm-hmm.
quite a bit of time going through some things, people that are great people, but just really needed somebody to be able to talk to. And then you really realize when these people are calling you and reaching out that you're really making true connection. You're really building true community because people care and they care about what you think, about situations they're going through.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful thing. You were busy, Russ. My goodness. My goodness. Thank goodness for WhatsApp.
Well, it is crazy. I mean, I literally stop and I think to myself, this is the crazy world we live in. It's crazy, amazing, good, fun. We could talk to people anywhere. And I'm
Mhm.
texting and I'm talking, and it doesn't matter where they are. It sounds like they're right next door to me. And back when I was young, I would have never thought outside of Star Trek that any of these things would have been going on. I mean, is this really what's going to happen? I mean, wow.
This is I'm still praying for the Jetson days where we're flying around in our cars. I'm still thinking that's maybe the next thing, right?
Hey, who knows? Who
Good.
knows? Yeah.
All right, I want to bring this question that Bruce asked. He said, okay, to me, so how do you best distance yourself from people who don't match energy with energy? You know what, Bruce? I'm going to say that in a way, it kind of weeds itself out on its own. And the reason why I say that is, I think that it's just like what you said, Russ, about it's you and like the five people in your circle, right? And I know that like even my business coach Alenka has always asked the question, who do you need to distance yourself from? As you start thinking about the list of people who keep making their way into your life, but perhaps you don't have, Mr. Groovy even saying establishing common ground, you don't have that common thread, or maybe like I know people that every time I talk to them and I leave them, I just feel like a little down. You probably have people like that in your circle where you're like, every time I just leave feeling not myself. And that's a really good sign of, you know what? I think we just need to distance. It doesn't mean that I'm not in your corner. I won't support you. I don't help you, but I'm just not going to be as always forthcoming and saying, let's go do stuff because I know the way I feel when I'm with you. right? So I do feel that we start to distance ourselves. It's not to say that I'm just going to shut that person out completely. I'll still check in on that person and we'll do the same, but I don't really always need to be in the same room with that person or making the
Right.
time
Yeah.
for a one-on-one coffee if we really don't need to. So what
Well,
about you? What about you, Russ?
yeah, let me give you a thought on that. And that is, so my why and purpose in life is to inspire and encourage you and everybody watching to live a purpose-driven life of significance. And I always say, what do I mean by that? I want you to be a world changer. I want you to be a difference maker. I want you to do the amazing things God created you to do. And so I want to lift people up. I want to make them better. And you can't pull people along if they don't want to come. I understand all that. But sometimes energy breeds energy. So when you are full of lots of energy, people will match that a good share of the time. And so a lot
Yeah.
of times you're being a positive influence on them. And maybe they don't have the kind of crazy energy that you and I have, Tisha, and they're just like,
Yeah.
woo. And maybe they're like, that might be a little much, but that doesn't mean that they're not a good connection. But sometimes you're right. I think it gets to the point where it becomes pretty obvious that it just doesn't click. You could be friends and you could be casual connections, but it's not going to be something that's going to really go anywhere because who knows, maybe me being upbeat irritates them. I mean, that would be shocking that I would irritate anybody, but sometimes being so positive is too much for people. And even my beautiful wife who loves me to death every now and then will say, okay, hold on, Pollyanna, hang on, just settle down a little bit. And so but yeah. Yeah. Anyway, but life is amazing how it does, like you said, work a lot of itself out if we just don't stress about it.
Yeah, I'm going to remember that from now on, Russ. Pollyanna. I'm going to have that as my little nickname. This is Pollyanna. I mean Russ Hedge. Russ Hedge. All
Yes, I'm
right,
either
I have
called
a
Pollyanna or
question.
Tigger.
or ticker. Okay. I have one more question and we're going to start to wrap this up because I want to ask you about this. So years ago, I mentor a lot for Arizona State University, and I was very pleasantly surprised when one of the professors came to me and he said, Tisha, I really want you to come teach my students about people skills. And I just was like, what? People skills. He's like, just how to talk to people, how to network with people, how to do this. And I was recently asked just the other day to speak to high school students about a very similar thing about people skills and conversation starters and things like that. So, what would you say to today's generation, today's society, as they're making their way into the world and they're starting to create their connections and community, Russ? Like, is there a tip you'd like to share with people? Because I know you and I get it. Like, we understand the importance of it. But I think today's society is just like, nope, phone, head down, don't want to talk to anybody. Like, I go to
Right.
my son, we were talking about our kids in the green room. And like my son is deathly afraid of going and asking for a to-go box when we're at a restaurant. He doesn't want to do it. And I was like, oh, for Pete's sake, like go ask for the to-go box. I'm like, what's wrong with this society? But like
Well,
I would love to be able to instill this, hey, it's okay. People don't bite. You just need to go and ask and assert
right.
yourself. So can you share a tip? And then we're going to open it up for some shameless plugging. But I'd love to know your thoughts.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me say go Beavers. I graduated from Oregon State University, Pac-12 still. And I actually passed up today, Tisha, for you.
Hmm.
I was supposed to be speaking to students at Oregon State University today.
Oh,
Scott, yeah, Scott's over there doing that. D. Scott, he and I both graduated the same year in 1987 from Oregon State. But anyway, your point exactly. I love speaking to young people, talking about that. And number one thing I tell them is be authentic and be you. Okay,
wow.
so don't put pressure on that you have to be somebody else, because that is the fear of having to be what people expect is what holds people back from talking to other people. People are
Mhm.
expecting you to be a certain way or do a certain thing. Just be yourself. The other thing is, I gave you that thing I told that client the other day, be interested in other people. So
Mhm.
John Maxwell says, if you want to be interesting, be interested, right? So
Right.
you need to be interested in them and ask them questions. It takes a lot of pressure off when you said the question earlier, how are you doing? And let them answer. And then
Mhm.
say, tell me more about you. You're really focusing on them. And people's favorite subject is themselves,
Themselves.
right? It's
Oh,
their
of
favorite
course.
subject. So that is a great connection tip, is take the pressure off, remove the anxiety of all of that by realizing it's not all about you. You don't have to be somebody you're not, and start just asking questions and listening. It really reduces the amount when you feel like you're having to carry the conversation and do things, you're doing something wrong. You need to be
Mhm.
taking a deep breath and start asking them questions. And sooner or later, you're going to say, "Hey, Tisha, tell me about your son's soccer and everything." And then Tisha will be going, "Oh," and telling you all about it. And you won't even have to talk for the next 45 minutes. So, but you do,
True story.
you tap into what people are passionate about. And that just makes, the big difference. So that's what I would say.
I love that. I really love that. I saw another tip when I was speaking. Someone had shared this with me that we're so ingrained to ask, "What do you do?" Right? Like that's the first question. We're at a typical networking event. "What do you do, Russ?"
Mhm.
And you would go in and do your whole spiel, maybe your 30-second commercial. But instead of
Right.
saying that, like switch the question around to like, "What lights you up about this? Like, what gets you up in the morning? What makes you excited about the work that you do?" And then that will give
Right.
you another story instead of just, "I am coach," kind of thing.
Right.
So
Right.
great tips. Thank you, Pollyanna. I really appreciated it.
I'm
There you
here to
go with
spread
those
joy
happy
and
fingers.
happiness.
I know, happy fingers. All right, Russ, take it home. Tell us how people can find you and what's coming up for you as I magically put your website up there. But tell us all about you.
Magically. Yeah, well, the best place to go is russhedge.com. I said it earlier that I have a simple mind, so I keep it really simple, and everything about me is at russhedge.com, so that makes it simple. All the connections to my social media, my email, my phone number. You can even schedule time directly on my calendar to Zoom with me and be one of
Mhm.
those 1,000+ people I'm connecting with. And I have made, you and I were talking about this, Tisha, I have made just this week some amazing, amazing connections. I mean, sometimes I go into a call thinking, can I get off this in 10 minutes? I mean, I'll be honest. I'm thinking I've got a lot to do. And then I get into the call and I'm thinking, can I talk for another hour? But I
Oh,
can't because I have time frames. You just make really great connections with people. But really, the best thing that you can do is go to russhedge.com, and don't forget, Marketing with Russ, aka hashtag Russ Selfie. We didn't even get into that. I am the selfie king. And that I use in networking groups and in connection all the time. And I can save that story for another day. But Marketing with Russ, aka hashtag Russ Selfie, every Monday and Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And the Experience Live with Russ and Scott every Wednesday at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Those are all on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube.
mhm.
Also have a Instagram Live 6:30 a.m. Wednesdays before the Experience. It's called the Experience Backstage, and our friend Shree from Houston, Texas, is on that with us. Co-host that every Wednesday, and then last but not least, Russ Reels Live is on every Thursday at 4 p.m. PST. Trying to get Tisha back on that show, and so
Yay.
that's coming up this every Thursday. And also, I produce a couple live streams, so if you need any help producing or just want to bend my ear and ask some questions, I'm always here for you.
Oh, thank you so much, Russ. And thank you to everybody
But,
who tuned in, for those of you who shared comments, for those that were just popping in and checking us out and so forth. Thank you. I really enjoyed this conversation, Russ. You're such a pleasure to be around, and I appreciate you spending your Friday with me and missing Oregon. My goodness. But great that Scott could be there for you. It's exciting.
yes, absolutely. Woo! Yeah.
Woo! All
Well,
right.
one last thing I just want to say is I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Thank you for all you do. And the number one thing, even though I'm a marketing coach, and even though I help businesses, number one thing I like to do, and I know Tisha is the same way, is just to connect with people. And Tisha, you add value to my life. You brighten my day. Thank you.
Oh, back at you. Same. I'm so happy that we could do this. Thank you so much, Russ, and
But,
appreciate you, my friend. I know I'll probably see you in person one of these days. We'll have to make that
oh yeah.
happen. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, I'm definitely going
absolutely.
to come down to Phoenix. I have way too many friends, or in Arizona. I've got way too many friends down there. So yeah.
Well, may I interest you? So, August 2nd, I know it's hot, but I do have a bowling connection party going on because I want to keep it indoors. I've invited Mr. Groovy out from LA because I plan on mixing up the connections and everybody gets to bowl and have a good time. And it happens to be Bruce Carnahan's birthday. So maybe you come out in August and come join us for that connection and community building event.
Well,
You have an open invite.
You send me the information on that and I will try to make that happen.
Yes, absolutely. Even Mr. Groovy saying it's worth the trip, Russ. There you go. Good people. Good people. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Happy Friday. And we will catch you back next week. I have Anthony Garone. He is the co-founder of Edify Content. And we're going to be talking about a super fabulous topic about breaking out of your mental prison. He has a new book coming out, so you don't want to miss that. So if you have all of that in your head, we're going to help you with that. So, all right. We'll see you guys next Friday. Have a great weekend and we'll see you back. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.